Welcome, guys, back to the Grateful Living podcast. Today, I'm thankful to have Maryanne George with me. Maryanne is a dynamic worship leader, songwriter, musician who is passionate about encountering the Lord through worship. Maryanne is a member of Maverik City Music, a collective of worshipers committed to deconstructing unspoken rules that exist in the CCM and Gospel world. In 2021, Maryanne released her first EP entitled Not Just Stories. It captures the essence of Maryanne's journey with the Lord, featuring a collection of deep felt worship and uplifting praise songs. Maryanne, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to be here.
Of course, thankful to have you on. For people that might not know who you are, can you kind of give us a little backstory on where you grew up, your family situation, what type of kid you were, things like that?
Oh God, what type of kid I was. No, I grew up in New York, so I grew up around a lot of my family. Like my parents are still together. I have a younger brother who's 6 years younger than me. I grew up with a lot of my cousins. We're all very musical people, and so we kind of just like we all grew up like off of one street. We actually all lived in one house at one point. Like my cousin and I lived in one house, and then eventually, as time went on, we all lived off of one street. So I've always grown up around family and cousins, and so family is a huge part of who I am. But yeah, the type of kid I was very drawn to music at a super young age. At the age of like 4, I learned how to play violin, and so my mom was very adamant about teaching it to me. I still remember as a kid, like being like told, like disciplined and told to sit down and like told to practice for 30 minutes a day, like that kind of thing. And so I feel like I've always been drawn to music. And then especially I grew up in a Christian home. So every event we always had music, and like we were always playing an instrument, and we always were encouraged to worship and to sing. And so yeah, that was always just something I always did. And so I was always known to be more musically inclined. I was the first grandchild on like both sides. So I was like the first kid for everyone. So like all my mom's siblings and all my dad's siblings were very much like invested in me as a kid and like loved growing up with me. And so I was spoiled. I feel like I was kind of like a spoiled child, honestly. And then my cousin came, then my brother came, and there was like all cousins after. But I was the first one. And so I feel like if you're asking me what type of kid I was, I feel like I had a lot of attention growing up and loved music. And so, yeah.
Yeah. You talk about it. I should have wrote down the exact lyrics in the album. It might have been in the prayer song about, you know, maybe asking God to be, something to the extent of where you are today, or in terms of, music and stuff like that. Was that a dream of yours to, be, I mean, obviously now it's on a different scale of
Yeah.
internationally recognized, but was that a dream of yours to be, a famous singer?
No, I don't think it was like this. I mean, truthfully, I didn't really see anyone that kind of looked like me that did that and was continuing to do it, or was like, successful in the sense that like they stayed and, put out records and albums and toured. Like I didn't see that. But I've always loved music, so I always knew that it was going to be a part of my life, like whether it was like at church or personally, like maybe releasing something like a small album or EP. I've always wanted to do that. Like I didn't ever think it would be the way that it went. Like I didn't think it would be something as big as it was. I knew people in my church knew that I sang, and I had friends who sang, and so I had a lot of like community, and within my community I knew a lot of people that were artists, and so I've always like envisioned me collaborating with them and them collaborating, like just working together and doing it for fun, but never professionally. I mean, I also don't feel like it's strongly encouraged in my community to do something like that professionally, and so No, I don't think. I always say that this was like a dream realized. Like it happened. I don't even like to say it's a dream. It was just like kind of something that I've always wanted to do and something I've enjoyed doing. And I'm blessed enough to be able to do it for my job now. And that was never something I thought I would be able to do. I went to school for something else. And so I'm just really grateful that God kind of made it possible for me to do it this way and to just spend my life kind of serving and ministering in this way. It's been such an honor and a privilege, honestly. But I would like to say that, like, even if I didn't do this professionally, I would have been doing it, like I would have been spending my life ministering and serving in this way, regardless of whether, it was a quote unquote business, or not. So, yeah. But no, it was not something I envisioned for myself ever. I don't even think, like, even now, my parents have a really hard time. They're just like, they can't really wrap their minds around the fact that this is what I do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Um, I am also curious about your introduction to God and, just religion in general. I think it's interesting. At least for me, I've observed this. A lot of people kind of lose religion around the time of college, in terms of, I think they may have felt like it was a chore from 0 to 18. And just, I'm curious, how was that relationship? Maybe, how did your parents do a good job of making you enjoy it so that even when you did become independent, it still remained a part of your life, things like that?
Yeah. I'm really grateful because I have really good parents that at a very young age instilled in me um, an awareness of like his presence, of just the power of his presence. I feel like at a very young age, I was like exposed to that. They modeled it in their lives, like anything that they went through, any circumstance or situation that they might have gone through. The first thing they would do is call the family together to pray. And they kind of modeled that through their life. And honestly, like when I think back to the people I've grown up with, or like my friends and their parents, like I really look at mine and I'm just like really grateful for the way that they modeled and exemplified that. Right. And so now they're not perfect people, but just the way that they strived to be righteous in the way that they lived their life. And that to me, I feel like is something that is sacred and something that I'll always honor them for. So sorry.
You're good.
Something that I'll always honor them for. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful that they, just gonna take off the charger. I'm really grateful that they exemplified that. But there was a point, obviously, like where I feel like you have to kind of figure out God for yourself. And I never got to that point like willingly. I felt like God really kind of just pursued me and made himself known to me versus like me having this question of like, oh, is God real? And I remember in college, there was one specific moment where I felt like I encountered the Lord in song. And it was Kim Walker had just released this song called How He Loves, and it went viral, and I'd come across it, and I felt like I heard it the first time, and then I heard it the second time, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks every time she would sing, he loves us, oh, how he loves us. Oh, it's just like, and she is known to sing with such conviction, such like resolve, like she knows for a fact. And that's so powerful to me. I mean, even now, like when I meet people who really, I can tell that when I listen to someone, if they really believe what they sing. And she's one of those people that really believed what she's saying in that moment. And I could tell in that moment, like being a college freshman, I'm listening to it and I'm just like overwhelmed by it. And it's like hitting me. And it's like, I think I encountered the Lord for the first time for real, like his love for me for real. And then I feel like ever since that moment, I've always known God for, like, I knew God for myself. Like he was real to me. Now I feel like all of us go through moments in life where we get older, and there are times where we get I feel like in any natural friendship or relationship with anyone, there's ups and downs, and there's valleys and mountain experiences. And so I feel like I've gone through those with the Lord, and I go through them now. But I've never doubted his existence. And I feel like that's been something I cannot help. Like, my life can get so bad, but I will still know that God is real. Like, and because I have seen it in my own life and in past experiences, but I've also seen it in my family. I've seen it in my friends. I've seen it even in the way that Mav has happened, and the way that it's become what it is. Like, I've seen it in the lives of people around me, and I've seen healing. So I know all these things. So I know that I know for a fact God is real. Now, I feel like I still go through times where I'm like, I don't know if God is like ignoring me, or like, I still go through those experiences. But I'm really grateful because I have this solid support and foundation in my family and my parents, and John, and my husband and my friends. I've surrounded myself with people who really have strong relationships with the Lord. And so that's always been a constant for me. And so I'm really grateful that they've done that and they've continued that. Like I said, they're not perfect, but they have brought their imperfections to the Lord, and trusted him. And we give each other grace, and we try to live our lives as best as we can to the glory of God. So, but yeah, they've really been a person. Like, they are my examples. Like, I look up to them and the ways that they've lived their lives, both of my parents and my grandparents, especially. Today is my grandfather's 1-year death anniversary, and he was like the matriarch. I mean, the what do you call it? Patriarch of faith in my family. And so he made a decision to serve the Lord, and serve the Lord in the sense like he got saved, and instilled these values in my dad, and my dad did it to me, instilled those values in me, and my mom too. And so it's just, I've grown in a family of strong faith, and I'm really grateful, because I feel like when I come into these stages of my life where I'm kind of like now doing it more professionally, like, that foundation is there, and I'm so blessed for that, because I don't know that I would have been who I am now, without that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm also curious. Maybe you haven't experienced this, but obviously Christian Indians and Catholic Indians are a minority of, in terms of the population of India.
Mhm.
Um, I'm curious. Has that ever been something you felt self-conscious about in terms of? It seems like you grew up with great community, but maybe later in life in New York City or things like that, where people just assume you're Hindu or stuff like that.
Um, yeah, so I feel like I noticed it more when I got married and I left New York, because I feel like I grew up around a lot of Indian Christians, and like, I went to school with them, I went to church with them. Like, I went to a predominantly Indian church at the time. Um, and so I've always kind of never felt like, even my friends who were not Indian, like, knew like I was Pentecostal, like I grew up Pentecostal, like, so they knew that about me. Like, they knew other Indians that were like me. So I didn't grow up feeling like a minority until I came to Missouri. And I feel like most of those questions are like, I meet people who aren't Indian, and they didn't know that there were, I mean, especially, I feel like, especially being a part of Mav, getting to collaborate and write with other people and writers in our industry. Many of them have not seen an Indian Christian before, and many have not encountered that. And I really feel like God has also like strategically placed me in these spaces to let people know that, God is on the move, and he is working and moving in parts of the country, parts of the world that you may not expect, or you may not know. It's not, I don't even, yeah, it's just, they may not know that there are Christians there. And so I get to share that story of how St. Thomas came to India, and like, the gospel was spread to India, and so I feel like I've noticed it more now, I didn't notice it as much growing up, probably because I was surrounded with many people who were like me. But once I left, in most spaces now professionally, I am the only Indian. I'm the only like brown, person. I would even go to say like I'm the only Asian. And most of the time I'm dealing with more white groups of people or like Black people. So I'm not really dealing with anything in between. We have the Spanish community, Latin, Latino community, and Hispanic community, but yeah, there's really no one that looks like me. So I feel like I've noticed it more in the last 5 years than I have ever in my life before. But I'm grateful for it, and I feel like it's even given me more insight on who I am, like what I represent. Um, and I think it's just another face of God and another attribute and facet of who God is that many have not heard of or have been exposed to, and it just shares more of who He is. And so I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be representing my culture and my people in these kind of rooms and in these spaces. So yeah.
That's awesome. Do you ever feel the pressure of that?
Oh yeah, all
Yeah.
the time. I feel the pressure of that all the time. Like, I mean, just before we even started this podcast, you asked me about like, how do I feel talking about this? And you said there's a lot of 12 to 18-year-olds, and I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I make so many mistakes. Like, I don't want. Sometimes I like get so like nervous when I know that people are like looking to me for advice and looking to me for direction. But part of me, and I think you understand this, being a person of color or a brown person, an Indian. I think you're Indian, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
yeah. So I think as an Indian, like a lot of times we tend to put our best foot forward, and we tend to minimize some of the things we're going through, or minimize our struggle, or push things under the rug. And I think even though like I may not always be giving the best advice, I feel like my one thing that I'm like, I don't want to compromise on is being vulnerable and being honest. And I feel like vulnerability and honesty is the key to healing and growth. And so for me, I do feel that pressure, but I also remind myself, even though other people might look up to me, and honestly, I might disappoint people. I might do things that disappoint people. But I tell myself, I'm like, okay, like if I'm being true to who I am and who God called me to be, and I'm being honest, like I can only go up from here. And so I have a healthy dose of self-awareness thanks to my mental health background. I have a healthy dose of, I mean, probably a little too much. Maybe it's an unhealthy dose. I don't know yet. But I feel like I'm very hyper aware and sensitive to that, like just being very, how I'm being perceived, and also how honest am I being? Like, and I have this, I can't lie. Like, I can't lie to someone about how I'm feeling.
That's good.
It's not always good. It's not always good in my position, but I also am very open in the fact that there's so much growth that I need to, I have to go. Like, I have so much more to grow. And I'm always going to be, I always say, like, I never want to stop growing. Like, I want to keep going until the day I die. Like, I feel like there's never a time to stop. My grandmother is in her like 80s. Like, I think she's actually, no, she's 79. So she's turning 80. But I feel like I look at her life and there's so much she's learned. Like, even in the last, like, 1 year of having lost my grandfather, watching her kind of grieve and kind of go through that. And it's like, you're learning as you go. And I just pray that I never stop learning, because I feel like the second you stop learning, you really stop living. And so I just feel like that is something, as much pressure as there is, like, I want to keep learning. I want to keep being honest about who I am and where I am at. And hopefully people find freedom in just being honest about that, and talking about the things that are hard. So that's I do feel that pressure, but I'm trusting that God meets, fills in the cracks and meets people where they're at, just like he meets me where I'm at. So
And hopefully fans recognize no one's perfect
yes,
too.
I mean,
Yeah.
no one is, and like that's one of my my Instagram bio. I don't think I'm ever going to change it, but it literally says I'm more like you than you think, and I really feel that. Like I'm like every time I meet people, I'm just like I get it. Like you see Mav City and you see me, but like, and I do understand like just the representation means a lot to people, and I think that's amazing. And I honestly probably would have freaked out if I saw someone who looked like me on a stage, doing kind of the stuff that I'm doing. But at the same time, I look at them and I'm like, you can do the same thing. Maybe not, maybe it doesn't mean that you're doing it the way that I'm doing it, but God's equipped you and called you to do something unique and just uniquely you and for you. He's created a space for you to do that too. And so I always try to redirect and encourage people that, this is not the goal. Like what I'm doing, that's not the goal. Jesus is always going to be the goal. And yeah, that's kind of where I try to stay in that space.
I think you have, because I remember one of your stories saying like even when all the applause is gone or the fame goes away, that I'll still be worshiping somewhere somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's true. I mean, I feel like, I just had a baby, and so postpartum, you kind of go through this little identity crisis, especially when you do such a public profession. You kind of lose a sense of self. You wonder how you're gonna rebrand. I don't know. It's just like all these things I'm thinking. And I told myself, I was like, and I was telling some of the people close to me, I'm like, I really like feel like if I lost all of this, it wouldn't change things for me. Like, I don't think I would be sad. I would be sad, but I don't think it would change what I do, you know? And so I really do stand by that. Like, I do feel like I never came into any of this. I never dreamed of this happening. So I live life with an open hand. Like I try my best to like live life with an open hand and like, okay, God, like you can take it away, career, whatever, take it away if you need to. And it's easier said than done, obviously. And I'm sure there are times where, I know there are times where I feel like my flesh kind of contends with that. And in those times, I'm really honest with the Lord. And I just kind of tell him like, hey, I'm having a really hard time with this and remind me what this is about again,
Yeah.
So that's what I try to stay there.
Yeah. I'm sorry to throw another deep topic at you.
I love this. Bring it. I have no time limit. So you're
good. Obviously you went through something really tough as a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you want to, I guess I'll let you speak on it and, just talk about that situation and, maybe any advice you would have to someone who has gone through something that you're going through and is just bewildered or, not it, obviously it's very tough and trying to figure things out.
Yeah, for sure. When I was 12, I was sexually assaulted by someone older than me, a man, an uncle, someone my family knew very well, people in my community knew very well. So someone trusted, and it was very just kind of like mind boggling. It was like earth shattering, and you're also like confused because I feel like 12 is like one of those ages where you're just kind of figuring out your sexuality for yourself, and you're just kind of like learning who you are. And to have something like that, I felt like it was like my innocence was taken away at a very young age. And so one of the things I had a really hard time doing was sharing it with people, sharing that experience with people. And I think if anyone is going through that now, or just kind of having a hard time, like finding people they trust, like I really encourage you to seek counseling or find a therapy. I know a lot of schools will have, therapists and stuff that are there, like, or colleges, even if you're in college, there are free counseling services at schools and colleges. And so I highly encourage you. And I mean, I am a mental health professional myself. Like, I went to school for therapy, and I know for a fact that, like, if clients were to come to me, or a kid or a child or someone under 18 were to come to me and express this desire to get therapy, many of them are willing to do it for free. Like, sliding scale fees are there too, like, where if you don't have insurance, you can get help. So I really strongly, I'm saying all this to say, I'm strongly encouraging people to get therapy, because that's not something I did early on. And I only ended up getting therapy years later, like, I want to say 10 years after that happened. And so I do feel like so much of that experience, or that situation, and it was like, and I think more people realize it's like multiple girls in our community go through not just one experience of that, but like multiple experiences over time, where it's like, you almost kind of feel like this just happens and it's just a thing, and we've normalized its existence, and it's become very taboo to talk about. We don't know how to really stand up for ourselves in those situations. We don't know how to protect ourselves in those situations. And I feel like, now that I have a baby girl myself, and I know what to do now. Like, I know how to protect her. I will try my best to protect her. And I will teach her at a young age, what is appropriate, what is not appropriate for people to be doing to you. And if something feels like that, tell mom or dad, I don't think those things were something that was taught to me. And I don't think it's anyone's fault. I don't think those conversations were normalized or even taught to them, like to the older generations, and so for years, this has been happening in India. It's been happening now here. And I think women have just silenced themselves, because we lived in a more misogynistic culture at that time. And so they just learned to quiet their voices. But God has a very strong opinion on these things like that happening to women. He's very protective of women. And so I really believe his heart is to protect anyone who goes through any sort of sexual experience like that at a very young age, like having your innocence taken away. Sex is a gift from God, and any sort of sexual experience is something that God gives us and to enjoy, not to be abused. And so when gifts given by God are abused, no matter what they are, he's very jealous and very, his wrath is tangible and evident. And so he will avenge, and so I feel like he is, I can trust him to do that. And honestly, the way that he's taken care of me, there are times in my life, I'm married now, I have a kid, all of that, where there are still times, and I don't want to make it all rosy. There are still times where I feel like certain characters that I have, or certain tendencies, defense mechanisms, triggers, I find linked back to things that have happened to me as a child. And I have to actively plead the blood of Jesus on those things, or trust that there's further healing that God wants to give me. That's redemption. And that's the beauty of the Redeemer. He is constantly redeeming things that I thought I was healed from, or I come to different stages of my life and I realize that God's still healing, or still renewing, or still restoring things. And so it's really beautiful to come, I'm turning 30 this year, and I'm looking back on my life, and I'm like, there was so much growth that I've seen take place. And I now feel like, I had a really horrible experience happen to me, but I feel very empowered to share, the ways that God has brought me through. I don't think it's one of those things that, at the, flip of a switch, like things are better now, and I never have to talk about this experience again. No, I am empowered to share that God has brought me through. And a lot of times that process of that journey of healing it's not linear. It's ups and downs, and it's real. That's just life. That's just real. And for humans, and some days it feels like a good day and we're doing better. And other times I feel like something John will do, or something my parents will do, will just trigger me. And I have a reactionary response, and it's not always the way of God or the way of Jesus. And I have to be introspective and honest with myself and be like, what happened there? And I've learned over time, I'm trying to, even now I mess up, right? But I try to catch myself in those moments. Like a big thing for me after going through that experience of assault was just feeling not good enough or insecurity. And I still find it rearing its ugly head. I think even more so now that I'm in these type of spaces, more public spaces where I feel like I'm the only Indian. And I feel like, I don't have, people don't understand me, or I'm less, I feel like less than, because there's less of me. So I feel like it's always like a harder, there's more of a struggle to prove myself, or more of the pressure of like, yep. I have to look successful. I have to do this the right way. If I take a break, it's going to look like I failed. Or if I, like things like that, where I have to actively kind of fight those thoughts and be like, this is, first of all, it's not about you. So, and then tell myself, like, the Lord is writing this story. Like, he is someone I can trust. This insecurity is stemming from a place that maybe I need to revisit and just rehash with the Lord again and ask the Lord to remind me who he is. And that is, like, to me, that's sanctification. It's kind of just like this daily, like, renewing of my mind. That will, when you go through something traumatic, that is always going to be a thing. This constant renewing of my mind, and kind of like having to facilitate that for myself. That is, sometimes we have to encourage ourselves. And that is my way of, like, I have to do that. We can't look to other people all the time. Like, I can't look to other people to encourage me. Sometimes I have to do it myself. And this is the way. Daily sanctification, like reminding myself who I am. These are the things. Like, it was a traumatic experience, but I do feel like the Lord has been with me on this journey. And that song, How He Loves, like, it captures this whole story of, like, he's jealous for me. Like, I forgot the lyrics. He is jealous for me. Loves like hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. Like, and it's like, sometimes God doesn't just take away those storms. Like, he walks with us through them. And that's like this journey of, like, man, I feel like the loving response is to walk with me through it, versus like, let me just take it away. Like, no, like, I get to experience the consistency of who God is, and the closeness and the nearness of God in these moments where I'm walking with him in a storm like that I'm going through. Right. Like, yeah. So it's hard. I'm not going to, like, lie to you and say, and it's really hard on the people that live with me sometimes, like the people around me, my family. They've seen, like, I mean, y'all see the side of me that's very refined and, like, out in the world, but, like, they've seen the hard stuff, like the really difficult stuff. I'm more prone to depression and more prone to anxiety. And I find myself more prone to those things naturally due to things I've gone through. And they sat with me in those spaces, reminded me of who I am, and encouraged me to encourage myself. And, then we kind of, like, we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we kind of go through. So it's like a journey. It's ups and downs of just, like, of life. It's just the humanity that we are. We're not perfect people. And if we were perfect people, we wouldn't need God, but I mean, God also doesn't need us. Let's be real. So, but yeah, I'm sorry if I'm talking so much. I feel like I'm talking a lot. But
You're good. I feel
like I talk like 20 minutes at a time.
No, this is valuable. A lot of good points in terms of self-love, understanding you're human, the waves of it's not linear. No, that was really powerful.
I'm still, and it's still something I'm learning. Like, I'm still learning self-love. Like I said, it's a journey. It doesn't really end until you're dead.
Yeah.
And then there's another journey that takes place, the heavenly journey.
Yeah. So I guess, obviously I saw you did a BA in psych. I guess 18 to 22 or your college years, is there something that stands out as you look back on that time of life and wish you knew, a certain wisdom or something
Oh,
like that?
I do feel like the Lord really started to pursue me during those years. That's when I told you, like, uh, I had my first encounter with, I feel like I encountered the Lord during that time. And I mean, like, it was just really beautiful to see, like, this. I feel like there was a fostering of a relationship. And, you mentioned it in the prayer, first track of my album. I kind of prayed. And I feel like I was very honest in those prayers where I was kind of just talking to God at like night, and I was serving at my church too. So I remember being like younger, waking up before our Sundays service practices and our rehearsals, like on Sundays. I would wake up early and just spend time with the Lord. And I didn't really know if I was doing it right, but I took the time. I was consistent. And there were days where I was just like, I would wake up and I would start praying and I would fall asleep. And so it wasn't very like, I tried, but I really, really feel like, I say this to everyone, was like, I feel like the Lord really honors our efforts in those times. And so during that 18 to 22 like phase, I really felt like I tried. Like I really tried to, I encountered the Lord finally for myself. And I felt like, okay, like I was this, I feel like I was like this, it was almost like, I want to say it was almost this like works based kind of things where I was like, okay, I need to do this. I need to pray like every day. Like I need to do this. Da, da, da. And I feel like even when I failed, like I felt like the Lord was so consistent in showing me his mercy and his grace and his love towards me. And so much so that like when I got into my last year of college, I felt like I was walking around my school campus. And for context, my campus was a commuter school. I mean, I had transferred in the middle of my college. So my freshman year, I was in one place, and then the rest of my school years, I was in another place. And so the second school I went to, the campus was predominantly minority, like immigrant populations, minority. And so, and it was in Queens, like the heart of Queens, Jamaica Ave, like very, very diverse, which was amazing. And, my grandfather at the time was giving out tracts on right by the train stations around there. He was very, very consistent about doing that. And so I happened to go to school right there, right in front of where he would be doing that. And so at the time, I remember going to the campus, and there was like the way that my school was, I guess the layout of it was like this is like the lobby, and then like each floor is open. So you can like see each floor as you go up.
Yeah.
And so I was going somewhere on the fourth floor, and like I noticed one whole side of the school was reserved to Muslims to pray 3 times a day. And so I would walk up to these steps, and I'm like walking up the steps to my class, and I'm hearing the prayers of my Islamic students and cohorts and, fellow friends, I guess. And so I was literally listening to them, and I'm like, man, like the persistence and consistency that they have, like the desire, the drive to pray 3 times a day, regardless of what they're doing. They're facing the sun, like, just the devotion. I was like, where are the Jesus lovers and the Christians? Like, and at that point, I had tried to get in touch with the Christian club at my school, or the university attached to my school, and I was not getting a response. So I was frustrated. And at that time, I would just go home, and near my school, near my home, there was a college that my friends went to, and they had an university there. So I would plug into them. But at the same time, I'm like, this is my school. Like, I feel like we should have something. And so I made it a point to try to start that in my school. And I did. In my senior year, actually, what's so funny, it's like my senior year, my second semester, I started it. And man, the Lord taught me so much doing that group. We had like a good amount of people, like 12 to 15 people coming to our club weekly. And, God used that group. We got plugged into InterVarsity, the New York, New Jersey chapter, and we got to go to like big event in Basilea. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but these are like the big New York, New Jersey kind of like retreats that they would have. And so our chapter or our club got to be a part of that and got to meet other Christians, students in other campuses in the New York, New Jersey area. And so doing that or having that experience, it felt like evangelism in a different way that like my grandfather was doing, but I was like building relationship with these people. And my school was so it was almost had like a like there were people who were in their 60s coming back for a second degree, and then there were like students in their 18, like who are 18 getting their first degree. So it was like such a wide demographic of people. And so our club was so diverse in the sense we would have like 60-year-olds, we'd have like 21-year-olds, we'd have like younger students that I don't know, just came to college early. I don't know. But like, and then we had atheists, we had LGBTQI plus, we had like a lot of different people represented in the group. And as I would talk to them, because I was a vice president, I would always talk to them. I would build relationship with them. And I felt like God was literally, I felt like the Holy Spirit was giving me things to say. Like, I didn't feel like it was me. Like there were certain questions that were asked that I feel like I wouldn't have known how to answer. Like at all, unless it was the Holy Spirit. So I feel like I answered them and I was like, oh, wow, I'm like learning myself as I'm answering these questions. But that experience, even just hearing like some of the things that they would go through, I think sparked this desire in me to do counseling. And that's what I ended up getting my master's in. And, but that whole 18 to 22 was a very like, I tried really hard to build this relationship with the Lord. And I feel like he showed me purpose and he was giving me and equipping me for what I'm doing even now. Like a lot of what I'm doing right now was built with those skills that I was learning in that InterVarsity experience, but also just discerning what God was saying, just like hearing his voice and like what he was saying. Excuse me. But that is, I feel like that whole 18 to 22 was a very important time. I mean, I think I still made dumb decisions. I was very young, but I really tried to be a follower of Jesus. Really, really tried. I think I tried more then than I am now, which is so sad to say. But life, as you get older, I feel like you're an adult. Like there's more things that you're responsible for. Yep. But at that time, my responsibilities were so much less. Like I had this drive or this dedication to focus on the things that I felt like God wanted me to do. And so in that way, I felt like, I felt really like it was a very crucial time for me.
Yeah. I saw, did a little stalking. The first cover that I saw was in 2015 on Instagram. I think it was Please Don't Say You Love Me.
So actually, that was just the first one on Instagram. I was doing covers way back. I think I made them all private now.
Okay.
I was doing covers way back on YouTube. YouTube was like the first place I like did covers, and I was in high school. So.
Yeah. No, but I'm just curious, maybe go back to the first time, you hit publish on YouTube, for someone that's struggling with confidence or, something like that, or to hit publish, what do you remember, what allowed you to finally just put it out there?
Well, I never feel like I believed in myself growing up. And thankfully, the first cover I ever did, I think YouTube, I don't know how long YouTube has been around, but I feel like that first cover was with my uncle, my mom's youngest brother. He was very musical too. And he was one of my biggest like encouragers and supporters in music. Like he always thought I was very good. He had a bunch of recording equipment that he ended up like giving to me. And I started at a super young age in like high school. I'm not even good at it now, but at that time I started producing my own covers and I would put them on SoundClick. It wasn't video, it was just audio, but I would put them on SoundClick, who, if you're an OG, you know that, I mean, you know what SoundClick is, but it was kind of like a SoundCloud. where you just upload, MP3s. And so I used to produce my own stuff and post it on SoundClick, and I had a whole bunch. But my first ever was a video that I did with him, my uncle. And I think after that experience, he encouraged me to do it. He was like, let's just do it. Like, he encouraged me to do it. And I think that experience gave me like the confidence to try it again, or the encouragement to try it again. And I just it was like something I was kind of addicted to. I kind of just kept doing it. I loved singing. I loved arranging. I learned how to play I learned how to play piano and guitar at the time. And so I started like practicing, and I was like the loser that would like print out the lyrics to the song and like, play it for literally for fun. Like I would just print out lyrics and learn the lyrics and like learn the chords. And I learned everything by ear. So I didn't know the names of anything I was playing. So I literally could not play with other people because I would have to like explain what I'm playing, and I didn't know how. So I would just do it myself, like a little music nerd. And that's like how I started, literally how I started. And it's so funny you're like asking me this, because I've thought about doing covers again more recently, or just like started like saying, like, I feel like now that I'm a mom, I feel like my time is so precious to me. Like, so I'm like, any second I'm like not with my child, I'm like, okay, do the dishes, clean the house, do the laundry, fix the sheets, talk to a person, do a podcast, do like, like things for my career, or like things for my home, or things for, I'm not thinking like, oh yeah, let's do a cover. Like, no. So now I'm like, it's really sweet to think back on how organically that started for me, and like how much joy it brought me at the time. And I think I might start doing that up again. And so I'm excited to like, dip my feet into that world again.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw in 2016, I believe John asked you for marriage. Do you want to talk about, what he's meant to you in your life?
Oh yeah. John's my best friend. We've gone through a lot together. We met when he was in med school, and we were long distance. So it was a very, very difficult experience, especially because I was going through a lot of like just kind of coming to terms. Like I said, first time I went to counseling was when I actually pursued my master's. Like they required you to go to counseling for a certain number of sessions. And like one of the things that they tell you in counseling is you can't really walk people through something, you yourself have not had the courage to walk through yourself. And so had to go into counseling and hash out all my trauma, so been doing it ever since. Yeah. But like it was during that time that I met John. And so I feel like he had a very like what do you call it? Like a very vulnerable part of who I am, like was coming out at the time that I met him. And I was kind of just like on edge, very kind of learning how much of who I am was tied to the things I felt from my abuse and assault. And so he was so patient with me. And that's one thing I will say, like, John has consistently been one of the most patient people I've ever met. And like I've said, like there's a certain level, there's a certain side of me that you see on social media, or like even in interviews like this, like, but he sees the side of me that's good and bad. And so he sees the very insecure stuff, the defensive parts of me, the angry parts of me, like, he sees all those things, and his love has stayed consistent. I said this when I, met him, and not met him, but like when we started to date or talk more seriously, like, I really feel like he is this living representation of Jesus. And he's not perfect, but, he, models Jesus as much as he can. And it's always been a compass for me, and he's been a really great partner during this entire phase and season of my life, where I think in our communities, it's not very common to find males that are supportive of such a public career, or, especially now having a child. He could have easily been like, yeah, I want you to scale back on doing this, but he's always been so supportive of my career, so supportive of me going out and ministering and serving. And even when I myself, I'm like, I don't want to do it. Like, I just feel like I need to be home right now. He's just like, this is the time. Like, you've been uniquely placed in these positions. And so he's always encouraged me. And so he's been like a best friend for me personally during these last 5 years. He's been so, I mean, we've been married for 5 years, but yeah, like during our 5 years of marriage, he's always been a very consistent person and very, very patient with me. And I'm really just grateful. I've been so grateful for that type of friendship in my life, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So, 2018, you graduate with a master's of education in mental health counseling. And then, I guess songwriting and music also comes about during, this 2018 to 2020 period. Can you talk about that transition and how songwriting became a part of your life and how you ultimately joined Maverick City?
Yeah. Yeah. Songwriting was never really a big, I always wrote, like, I journaled throughout my entire life. Like, I was always writing. I loved English. I read a ton of books. Like, and I used to like edit essays and do people's papers for fun. Like, I just liked to write. I don't know. But I never like felt super good at songwriting. I had written maybe like a handful of songs growing up. I was very melodic. So I feel like I was making up songs in my head, or I was like always like kind of for fun, like with friends, like I'd stub my toe and I'd sing a song. I don't know. Like, it was just like lame. Like, I would just do dumb things like that. So I feel like song has always been a thing that I've had and done. Like, I would make little ditties and but never seriously sat down, like wrote a song. Like, I did that like maybe 5 times, 6 times in my life, and I had like a handful of songs to show for it. So it was really funny. Like, when I graduated with my master's, I did these covers. I was doing these covers on Instagram, and one of those covers I, tagged the songwriters, and one of the songwriters ended up being the founder of what is now Mav. But he reached out to me via DMs, and his name is Tony Brown, and he's the best. And he, reached out to me DMs, and we like chatted back and forth. And he told me, he was like, hey, I think you would be, I would love to invite you to this camp that I'm doing. I think you would be a great asset to it. And I feel like I was just like, I don't really write songs. Like, I'm not good. And he's like, no, I think you're probably better than you think. So he saw something in me. And I mean, we all kind of say like Tony is real prophetic with people that he called into this group, because we all kind of like, we all met each other and we were all just like, wow, like, I feel like I've known you, or I was you, or like, so it's just like, it felt very like strategic the way that it happened. It was just like, we all kind of felt seen by each other. And he created this like family that him and Jonathan J, who we call JJ, both of them were part of this band called House Fires. And, they'd been in rooms and, just felt like they wanted to see more diversity in the rooms that they were in. And JJ is Black, and Tony actually was like adopted. So he didn't know what he was. And so he just like kind of like felt, well, he didn't know who his parents, I don't think he was adopted. He didn't know who his dad was, or like, he didn't really know his ethnicity. Mm-hmm. And so he kind of just wanted to see more diversity, and there was this difference in like CCM and Gospel, and like he wanted to kind of see those two worlds merge. And so he started to invite people to write and do camps, and it was very low key, like invite only, not a thing at all, like not a public thing. So he invited me to one of these camps, and in 2019, at this point, like I had finished my master's 6 months early because I had taken 6 months off. I transferred schools while I was in New York in the middle of my master's, so I didn't want to like waste another 6 months. So I like worked really hard and finished at the end of 2018 versus like May of 2019.
Yep.
So I told my family, like, I'm going to take the next 6 months off. Like, I worked way too hard and I was like experiencing burnout. So I kind of just took 2019, like chilled. But these covers started happening in 2018. I covered one of the songs Chandler Moore wrote, and he invited me to come to his church and to be featured on his album to sing that song. When I came to his church, that was January of 2019. I came to his church. I met Tony there as well in person. And so I met Tony. I met a few of the guys that were, now I actually met Dante, Aaron. I'd already known Alton, Tony, Nate, who's part of House Fires. All these people I met at that event in 2019. And then Tony had a more like official conversation, was just like, yeah, come to our camps this summer. Came to those camps in the summer and kind of like loved it. I never sought out to do this, like meaning like I was not reaching out to people. Like I was invited to everything. I came through, I kind of just took a step of faith and moved into like doing more songwriting and experimenting in that world. Mind you, I'm not working all of 2019. I was scheduled to go to India in 2019. And like, I didn't want to get a job before that because I would have to take off from work. So I was like, okay, after August, I will like look for a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I went through a season where I was like, came back and I just didn't feel like I was looking for jobs and I didn't feel led to. And so I was telling my in-laws and, who were living in Missouri as well at the time, we lived 3.5 hours away, but they would come to visit. And so my in-laws would be like, so were you like looking for a job? I'll be like, I don't know. I'm just like not feeling like, I don't know. I feel like God is calling me to do this songwriting thing and I don't know for sure. And so they encouraged me to take some time to fast. And so I did. And I told the Lord, I was like, I like got to the end of my fast and I still hadn't gotten a very clear answer. And I was like, okay, God, like if I don't hear from you tomorrow, I'm just not looking for jobs because I can't like not work. Like literally the next day, as I was going to go and look for jobs, I got a call from a church who was like, we would love for you to come and write for our album. I told the Lord, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need you to provide me the opportunities because I had not been doing music professionally at all. Like I don't have the connections. I don't have the network. I didn't really know anybody. Like to me, I'm just like, how am I going to make this a thing? Like, I don't know. And literally the next day I got a call from someone random. And I knew the people in their church. Like I knew some of the people in the church, like in the sense that like, I'd known them to be artists and songwriters. And so I knew it was a legitimate opportunity. And I was like, okay, I just knew in my mind, like, okay, God is calling me to do this. So I made that decision. And in, I think I spent 2020 is when COVID happened.
Yeah.
And so I spent a lot of that year kind of like writing virtually with people. And I had made the decision to November of 2019, I made the decision to do full-time songwriting. And literally weeks after that, I was offered a publishing deal. And that was basically like a short way that I would be employed. And, I would be writing songs for a living. And that was like a God thing. Like I just could not, even to this day, I'm just like, I don't know how these things happen, but God opened a way for me to get a publishing deal. And I've been in that deal ever since. Like I've been working through, and then COVID happened and it was like, okay, great, wonderful. Wrote all these songs in the midst of COVID. Some of my biggest songs right now that, I've gotten to be a part of were written during COVID. And so, it's been really a beautiful journey to see how the Lord has led us and led me since then. And I've just been writing ever since. I mean, I had a baby, so I didn't write during that time, but I didn't really write a lot. I have a lot to say now, and I'm in the process of writing again now. But also just giving myself space to live a little bit. And, and I think having a kid changes so many things. You learn so much more. And so I feel like God's teaching me so much now. And yeah, it's just been a crazy journey ever since.
Yeah. Obviously being a part of Mav and stuff like that, you have to perform for big audiences. How was that and building, that confidence up for yourself?
I get asked this, like, if we get nervous, like, and I think I get more nervous when I'm singing in front of a smaller group of people than I do with a big crowd. I don't know why. I really don't.
Yeah,
I will say like we went on tour this summer, and I'll always have a little like fluttering like as we're starting the show. Like we're walking up, I have to like get into this like kind of this mindset of like, okay, we're starting the show. Like kind of like zone in. I'm like hyper focused, but I'm like my heart is beating. Like, but then once we get past that first song, like I'm fine. Like we're dancing, we're having fun. We're just kind of like it's very easy from there. Once we get going, it's fine. But it's not like crippling nervousness. Like I'm not dealing with that. I do feel like I have crippling nervousness when I'm like 30 people in a room and I'm supposed to sing. Like I'm so shy, or like I'm nervous, or I feel insecure. I don't know. But when it's a larger group of people, and I feel like when you're in a collective, it's a little bit easier, you know? Mm-hmm. When I do my own bookings, I do get like when I do my own stuff, I do get a little nervous, like, but less when I'm in the group, because I feel like we have each other. And we're very like real. Like we're not, we've always stayed true, like to a fault sometimes. I think we're always just very, very much ourselves. And so, we're not told to look or act or be a certain way, which I feel like if we're just being ourselves, there's less nervousness, But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm less nervous when I'm in bigger crowds, but more nervous when I'm in smaller crowds.
Are you able to balance the feeling of like you're supposed to love what you're doing, but it's also technically work and
I have a very hard time with it, unfortunately. Yeah. Yes, I do. But I encourage myself to take breaks quite a bit. And this is where I was saying, like, getting back into covers, making it fun again. Because there is a point where it doesn't get fun. Like it feels like work, and you kind of have to, when those moments come, like I have to like stop, because I feel like if it's not becoming fun, or if it's not like if it's not feeling like natural or fun to me, I feel like singing and performing is fun for me. Like I love doing that stuff. But when it starts to feel like I'm being nitpicky, like I'm being nitpicked on, like, or like people are like like watching me or making decisions like based on the way that I'm acting, or I'm being very aware of that, like I feel like it tends to feel contrived, and I don't like that. And like I said to you earlier, like I'm very bad at I can't lie, and so I just naturally have to be in this space where I'm like, okay, I gotta stop, like I gotta stop, and like whether it means I need to take a breather and just kind of like loosen up, or maybe do a workout, or I don't know, just like get myself out of that headspace, or maybe like do something that makes me feel confident, or do something that brings me back to the fun of this and like the natural nature of this. I tend to just do that and try to like recalibrate, or take some time off, like don't do anything music related for a while, which is very easy now with a kid. Like I tend to like stay in that space then, and I tend to like neglect the fact that I need to be doing music. But tour has really helped. Like being on tour actually really, really helped make it like more fun. Like I think just being able to like dance and like sing, and Kirk Franklin's such an energetic performer, and so it tapped into this like, oh, this is like fun. Like it's supposed to feel natural to me. Like it's supposed to feel natural to like sing and dance and just have fun. Like I don't feel like it should be this very rigid thing. Like, I don't think anything music related or singing for Jesus, like it shouldn't feel very rigid. It should just be a natural like overflow of what is inside. And so he is so good at just having fun, like letting loose, and just kind of like not getting into your head about like, how am I sounding? How am I, like I try to get out of that, and I have to practice to get out of that. Like I have to be mindful and catch myself to get out of those spaces. But yeah, it is a thing. And I think everyone kind of goes through it. I think, and if they're saying they don't, they're lying, because like, it's just so hard to make a business out of something you really love. Like it's so hard to do both. And then on top of that, it being like faith, like being part of your faith, it's just even more hard. And I was saying this in an event more recently, I'm still kind of coming to terms with those things. Like I can't, it's hard for me. It's really hard for me at times to get there. And when I get there, I have to take time away and just recalibrate.
How has fame been? I'm sure, you know, given how nice of an individual you are, you want to respond to every DM, you want to do, everything that you can, but you're a human being and you have limits, you know.
Yeah. So weird. I really don't feel, I mean, I am. I have a level of influence, like, but I don't look at myself as a famous person. And but I do feel like I have influence. And I think one of the things that it is not always easy, because I just feel like there's always eyes on me. There's always people like waiting to see what I'm going to do. I feel like I surround myself around people who know me and who don't know me for like what I do, but have always known me for who I am, essentially. And I mean, I just don't, I can't do all the DM. I just don't, I mean, I truly physically cannot go through all of that and still live my life. Like, it's just, it's too much. But I love to talk to, have like actual conversations with people, like, and remind them, like, yeah, you can talk to me. Like, I'm not inaccessible. Like, I don't want to ever be inaccessible to people. And so I really try to remind like, I don't feel like I live my life. Like, I mean, people can come up to me and say hi to me. Like, I don't feel like I live my life like a famous person, but I will say I've always like looked at, even as a kid, I've always looked at other celebrities or other people of influence. And I don't feel comfortable kind of like just walking up to them and having like this conversation. Like, I'm very aware of like the fact that they are human and they have a life and they like probably want their space. Like, by the way, that's not me telling anyone not to come and say hi to me. You can always come say hi to me. But like, if someone's very visibly going through something and I'm like, I'm not going to go and say hi to you. Like,
Yeah.
like, so I've always been aware of that. I've always never felt, I'm not very easily starstruck or, except with Priscilla Schreier. I met her and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm actually starstruck. Like, I love you. Like, people who I deeply love and respect, like, I tend to get nervous to meet, but it's not because of their platform. It's mainly because I respect them. And I think like I just want to be someone that people look to and feel like, I'm kind, and I really strive to be that way. So I don't look at, I realize that I'm in a position of influence, but it doesn't always feel that way. Like, when I meet people, and I get very awkward and shy because I don't realize, like, I really truly don't realize. And I need help with this. Like, John always tells me, like, I need to be better at like how I respond to people when they meet me, because I just always feel a little awkward because I don't look at myself like that at all.
Yeah.
But fame is it's interesting. I don't love it, but I love some of the opportunities it's presented to me. I have loved meeting certain people, and I've loved parts of it, and I've really, really been sad by parts of it, because you see the ugly underbelly of the people you've idolized a lot of the time, like or the industry you've idolized, or like, the churches you've idolized. You kind of learn things about people or learn things about organizations and business that sucks and is really hard to stomach. But at the same time, you meet people whose hearts are so pure, and you're so grateful that people like this exist in our community, and you're encouraged by them and the lives that they live and the honesty that they live with. And so there's pros and cons to it. I mean, I think that's what most people would say.
How does with group dynamics, things can get tough at times with drama or egos or things like that. How have you guys continued to have at Mav like such a loving relationship and towards each other and things like that?
Yeah, I really feel like people, when we say that Mav is really a family, like, the artists, like we are a family. Like we have confronted each other if we felt like Naomi has confronted me. I've confronted Lizzie. I've confronted Chandler. Like people have like, we've had hard conversations where we're just like, even the things that we even post sometimes, like on social media, we have told like, is this worth it? Like, do you really feel like this is worth it? I get what you're trying to say. Like, and honestly, I probably agree with what you're saying, but like, is it worth this hoopla? Like, is it worth it? Like, do you want to like stir up? Like,
Yeah,
we've had to confront each other or ask each other or challenge each other in certain things. And we're not afraid to do that. We've built a certain level of friendship. And honestly, we also understand how we think. Like, that's where I was saying when Tony brought us together, it's this weird, like, I look at these people and I'm like, I've only known you since 2019, but I feel like I like know you. I know you because I am you in a lot of ways.
yeah,
And so we understand each other very well. And so when it comes to hard conversations, it's not really difficult to have. Also, mind you, when you do something as big as Mav, we're going to have those conversations. Like, whether it's like, okay, we're not going to do this song because you're having a hard time with this part. So let's give it to her instead, or let's give it to him instead, or let's do. So we're all very like malleable with what we can and can't do. We're very aware of what we can and can't do. So those kind of conversations are not hard. Like, and we're also very like, we're really just happy to be there. Like, we're happy to be with each other. And so even if it means like we don't do something or we don't sing something or, we're fine with it. But like when it comes to things we say or do or character, like we are very deeply invested in each other's personal lives. And so we've been honest with each other about where we are. And sometimes it's like, sometimes we know what the right thing to do is. Like, like we all know what the right thing to do is, but it's sometimes just acknowledging that things suck right now and it's hard. And we're there for each other in those seasons too. Like, we're there for the valleys, we're there for the mountaintops. And it's like this very funny thing because I've said this before, like Mav is like the best and the worst thing that's ever happened to me, because it's like these huge accomplishments of like things that I never even thought I would ever do. But it's like, we're also going through, like, I feel like I'm going through the darkest season of my life, just like figuring out who I am again, and like figuring out where like my child plays, what role my child is playing in my career and in my marriage. Like, I feel like the dynamic of my relationships have changed, like now that I have it. So it's like, I'm going through a lot personally, like right now, like, and it's a very vulnerable season for me. It's a very difficult season for me. But at the same time, we just got off of a friggin' 37 date tour that was amazing and so wildly successful. And like, we've gotten to see some beautiful things, and I'm living out things I never thought I would be able to even tour. That's crazy. Like, so just like very stark, like extremes of this life. And Mav and our family, like we have each other. We're the only people who really know what it's like to go through that together. And so we're very honest and real with where we're at with one another, and also with the people who follow us. Like, we make mistakes publicly. We also like win things publicly. We take L's publicly. Like, we do all of it. And we're human. And we just try our best to have each other's back and try to be there to support and speak the truth in love a lot of times. So I love them and I miss them already. And we just got off this tour, and I'm already like, I miss them,
yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like winning a Billboard Award, the best contemporary Christian album for Old Church Basement?
Oh my gosh. Oh man, like winning any award is just so crazy. I think when we got that Grammy, it was even crazier. Like, but the Billboard was like I think it was my first actual award ever. Like, meaning from professionally from the music.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Like, and I got like the physical thing, and I was just like, wow. But it's bad. I feel like I should care more about it, and I don't. And it's sad. I feel like I really should care. It's really, I'm not even trying to be humble. It's like, I feel like I need to care more. I don't really remember even. And I think it's really cool. Like that the Billboard Awards are even acknowledging us. And I'm really grateful because I think in ways like winning the awards and doing things is showing how far the music is going. And it's just been so like that, I think is the thing that sticks with me. Like, man, like the music is going places, and praise God that his name is being like lifted high and people are seeing who he is. And I pray that they continue to encounter him in our music. And but the award itself, like we don't really, truthfully, it's like the music is about like the journeys we've gone on. And so it's difficult and it's hard. And it's like the awards are like, okay, great. But it's like, I'm just grateful that the music is connecting. I mean, I think that is amazing. Like that the music is moving in people's lives and is also catching the eyes of like executives in music and people in the higher ups of music. They may not have heard Christian or gospel or CCM type of music, you know? And so it's reaching those demographics. And I'm so grateful to all the awards, the award organizations and stuff like the Grammy, the Recording Academy, and like the people who run the Billboard Awards, the VMAs, all of these things. Like, I mean, so grateful that they even considered us. And I just pray that the music continues to reach the masses.
Yeah. Sorry, I called the Grammys the Billboard Award. I apologize for that.
Oh, you're fine. But we did get a Billboard Award too. So we've been winning so many. We got like Dove Awards. We have like all these awards now. I honestly, that's why I was like, I truthfully cannot keep track of what is won. And it's a collective. So to me, it doesn't feel like it's not like me personally. But no, I need to start. And this is where I need to like practice more self-love. But I need to start realizing these are songs that I've written and I've helped write. And you know, they're winning awards, which is amazing. So all glory to God for all of that. And I pray that he continues to take the music places.
Yeah. So 2021, you came out with your first personal album or EP, Not Just Stories. Do you want to talk about that album making process of what that was like?
It's a really sweet album. It'll always be like the foundation of everything I ever do. I'm so glad it was my first album. It's more of a Devo album, a devotional album. It's very worship centered and just all about kind of like my life being an altar and my songs being that sacrifice for that incense to the Lord. And so I feel like it culminates my whole musical journey and my whole journey with the Lord up until that year, 2021. I feel like musically I'm working on very different things now, but that album will always be like the foundation of who I am, like who I was, like, you know, who I am, but like that whole journey of like becoming into who I am now. So it's a very, very foundational, a grounding album, like one of those albums that I myself will like, I know for a fact I will listen to in years to come when I forget, you know, like what this is all about.
Yeah. I know we just talked about it, but you know, for you, you know, when you hear things like debuted at top 12 on top Christian albums or number 3 on top gospel albums, you know, especially like with your academic background and stuff like that, like how much do you set goals for yourself in a healthy manner to continue to strive to, you know, put out greatness and things like that?
This is a great question. You are definitely convicting me right now because I just only more recently started to have more goals. Like, you know, my one goal was to create an album. Then I had this album and I had a baby at the same time. So everything was just kind of like, hold on, stop. Like, you know, so I had like goals that I think like I wanted to go on tour again and I got to do that. So it's like my next goal is I want to create a whole album. This was an EP that was
EPs.
released, but I want
Yep.
to do, I keep calling it album. I don't know why, but I want to actually create like a full length album at some point. But also really want to focus on just like writing, having fun with writing, and start doing more like put more a little bit more like cinematic, more professional covers. And so I want to start doing that and doing a lot more like writing in the pop world maybe, or doing more like I don't know, just like different artists I've listened to that I'm inspired by, I would love to work with. And so I eventually would love to learn how to produce some stuff and, you know, maybe executive produce some stuff for myself. So that's a dream or something I want to do. But yeah, other than that, it's like other goals of just like kind of like being a good mom, like, you know,
Yeah.
like
Personal goals too. Yeah.
I want to be able to do some more shows for myself, like just where I'm actually not like not worship or not church events, but like actually I would love to do my own tour or like just do something a little bit more intimate, you know, with my own music. So that's a desire and a dream I have of mine that I'm working towards, and I'm kind of just writing and yeah, just kind of living life a little bit right now
Yeah.
to like create content or music that feels honest and true to where I'm at right now. And so that's kind of the goal at
Yeah.
this point in time.
Yeah. You mentioned it a couple of times, but 2021, you had a kid.
Yeah.
How was pregnancy? How was having a kid, and
Oh, yeah.
how's motherhood changed you?
It's still changing me, bro. I don't know. It's hard. Like it is, I think it's equally hard being in this kind of like influential position or like being a part of such a public group or being an artist. I mean, just artistry or owning your own business, like it's just really hard doing that as a mother. And the feelings and the emotions you kind of go through, like postpartum, is just, I don't think I was even expecting it. And so just to have it all kind of like hit ahead and just have to like reorient for a second, like that really threw me for a loop. I was so afraid of like labor and, you know, like being pregnant and like, but those things, honestly, I had such a great pregnancy. I was able to go on tour for a part of the pregnancy, like pretty late in my pregnancy, actually. I had an amazing delivery experience, like, but everything after that delivery was really, really hard. And
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
I'm kind of just like, I'm sort of gathering my bearings now, 10 months out. I think the tour really, really helped. Just kind of like remind me that like there's a side of me that's also an artist that loves to perform and have fun and worship. Like, you know, remind me of who I am. Because when you become a mom, you kind of like lose your you know, I said this, and Naomi had a car chat with like just the girls where it's kind of her version of a podcast. I think it was like promo for her album. And
Yep.
she mentioned how like a part of you dies when you have a kid. And I definitely have experienced that. Like I think a part of me has died. And there's a part where you have to really kind of grieve that. And I feel like for a long time in the beginning of postpartum, like I was fighting it and I wanted to like go back into being the me I was before. Like, you know, 2 weeks after having my child, I went to our last tour date in Atlanta in 2021. I don't regret it to this day, but I don't know that it was, the intention was always, I don't know if it was a healthy thing. I was so wanting to like get back into just being an artist and, you know, having fun and doing the things I normally would have done instead of really like soaking in the time of just like, or maybe I was running away from that grief. And I think I was just wanting to do it. And I still feel like it was, I loved it. I'm so glad I was there for that last day, but I do feel like it just, you know, the grief came, it found its way like afterwards. And so I just postponed it for a little bit, but I'm still kind of grieving it. I'm still figuring out who I am. I'm still finding my place, and I'm giving myself, or trying to give myself, a lot of grace during the season to figure that out. And you know, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm trusting Jesus. I'm really trying to trust the Lord in this season. But she brings me a lot of joy, and she's very easy and so cute. And so I've just been like, she loves music, and so I feel like she's kind of like telling me like, girl, you can do what you want. Like I'll be here too. Like I want to be part of it, you know?
Yeah.
So she's been really great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a
That's all. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or let people know that's upcoming for you?
Oh, I don't really have anything right now. Like meaning I will start putting out stuff more on my Instagram, so look out for that. I'm gonna probably post more music. I would love to post more music. That's a desire of mine. So maybe look out for that. But for now, you can stream my album on all these digital service platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, all the things. Like my album's out there. But yeah, for now, that's it. I'm in the process of writing, so stay tuned.
Yeah. Well, Marianne, I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing yourself so authentically. Obviously, so many people look up to you. So, um, hopefully they can learn a couple things from your life and uh, bring it to their own life.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.